You have choice. You have always had choice. What change can we be today? What action can we take to create a future of greater possibilities? Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast with your host, Simone Milasas. Hi everybody, welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast. Woohoo! The crowd goes wild. And you are with me, obviously, Simone, your host. And today I am with a fellow access consciousness facilitator who actually is many different things. Like I'm gonna let her give you her little mini bio. Kalpana, I'm not gonna butcher your last name. Well, actually, let me try.
Yes.
Um, so welcome, Kalpana Raghuramen.
Really good. Raghuramen. Yeah, amazing.
You have more of a sing song with it. Raghuramen. Yeah.
Well, hi,
So welcome,
Simone.
Kalpana.
Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody.
So you're an access consciousness facilitator. You're also a relationship done different facilitator. You're also a 3-day body class facilitator. What else? What else have you got under that belt of
What
yours?
else? Talk to the entities facilitator and
Oh,
being you certified facilitator. Yeah.
nice. And one of the things that we wanted to talk today is I haven't seen you for quite some time. That's not what we're going to talk about, but I haven't seen you for quite some time.
Too
I
long.
haven't seen most people for almost 18 months at the moment, unless you're in Australia. And so, but the interesting thing is, I notice, being home since March 2020, and how much I was talking to someone about this the other day, how much it's not like I actually miss people. Like I know they're there, you still have access to them. Would I like to touch their bodies and hug them and stuff like that? Sure. And yet, it's really interesting because we haven't been thrown into this sort of thing, throughout our whole lives. You always go, oh, we must catch up, we must do this, blah, blah,
Mm.
blah. And you think that you need to see someone in person. And I was only looking at this the other day. I realized, I don't know if this sounds weird or selfish or something like that, but I was like, I'm okay. I've spent a lot of time on my own, like
Mm.
during this. I mean, I live on my own now, and it's like, so I have spent a lot of time on my own, and I have friends and stuff around here, but I still have a lot of time on my own, and
Yeah.
I'm been really, really enjoying it and loving it. And I welcome when I have other people around, but realizing that it's not a necessity. And what I see for myself is I think over the years, you sort of slip into this reality of it's a necessity to have people around you when realizing that it's not.
Hmm.
And you've been married, you're married, right?
Yep.
So how long have you been married for?
This August, I have to count now. I'm such a bad wife. 12 years this summer.
12 years this summer. Wow. Okay. And so tell me a little bit about how you guys met in your relationship because you guys are apart a lot and I watch how much here's what I would like, listeners to get is like I see you just so happy and so joyful and so creative in your life because yeah, I semi-stalk you on social. And it's like and you've got so many different things going on and yet also when I see that you catch up with your husband there's just like this like huge amounts of gratitude that has no definition and just this like wow you're so lucky to be with each other and yet you don't make it this necessity that you have to be geographically close to each other.
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk about how you guys met, how you create, like when you created the relationship first off, did you think you were always going to be living together or not, or
Hmm.
and how'd you end up here?
Cool. Yeah, we
Go.
met. No, go for it. Tell your story. So we met in 2007. We met at a dance festival in Amsterdam. He was there with his company, and we were part of choreographic blah blah blah, and we started to see each other after, and we were already used to not living in the same place. He was living in France. I was living in the Netherlands. So there was already this, let's say, distance. And he was already traveling a lot. I was traveling also some. So in some way, the traveling and not being together was kind of normal from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you said was
Well,
interesting.
hang on a second. Hang
Yeah.
on. Did you? Okay, so it was kind of normal from the beginning, but most people in this reality, even if they weren't living in the same city, they go to that's the next step.
Yeah.
Who's going to move? Who's going to, and I want to say sacrifice, it doesn't have to be sacrifice, but it's like who's going to make that move and give up where they're from so that we can be together. So, did you ever go through that sort of mentality?
We definitely did. We looked at, well, we were seeing each other, not seeing each other, blah, blah, blah. And there was this moment that we did, I think, 6 or 8 weeks together on a dance project. And it was a bit like of a test, some way. And then we were both like, oh, this is actually really easy. This is actually really fun. And then he was like, oh, maybe. And then he had his apartment lease that he had to either extend or stop. And he's like, I actually don't want to extend it. What do you say? What shall we do? And we were really clear that we didn't want one person to, exactly as you said, sacrifice for the other. And we said there would always be, it wouldn't work for us. We're both in our own network, in our own countries. So we ended up moving to the middle, like between the Netherlands and France is this small country called Belgium. So we both moved, and we both in a way made a shift. So we weren't moving into the other person's life. We were both starting afresh.
Huh. And did you do that like that was a, I want to say like a cognitive choice. It was like, let's go somewhere totally fresh.
Well, he said, hey, how about Belgium? And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, they speak French, they speak Dutch. It's not far for either of us. And I was like, oh my God, that's so smart. It was just very pragmatic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And kind of, when you're in love, you're like, oh, okay, cool, let's do this. So also that. And
That's true.
we just went with that. Like it was light. It was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It allows both of us to keep doing what we're doing. It's a distance that is workable. And so that was the next step we made. But in that next step, we were already like not there all the time because I still had a lot of stuff going on in Holland. And I remember when we moved into our place, I was like half still in the Netherlands with stuff. So we chose this space to be in a way to have some kind of a hub. And then we also knew that that was just a hub. It wasn't a, destination place, but more like find each other. And I absolutely, 2 years after we met, we got married. I definitely tried like the thing of like, we should try to see each other more, which was funny, but didn't work. And no,
So hang on, can I
yeah,
just go back for a second? Because you just
yeah.
like breezed over that. After 2 years, we just got married. Like,
Oops.
so yeah. So how did that go down? Because it sounds like you sort of had this great relationship that you could just go, oh, I mean, I don't know. Personally, it's like I think we need to all look at what works for us with relationship. And, this reality and society has sort of projected at you, get married, have kids, get a house, blah, 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 do all of that sort of thing. And it's already so different that you created somewhere else that was a quote unquote hub. I mean,
Yeah.
for myself, I always talk about, to me, if I ever chose a relationship again, I really like the idea of, Downton Abbey when they have their own bedroom and their own
Yeah.
bathroom,
Yeah.
and then you just have interjoining doors. So you can play and sleep together if you want, but it's like, no, this is my bathroom. Like,
By the way.
this is my bedroom. Yeah. I like that idea. So I like,
Yeah.
and it's sort of got that energy the way you talked about that it has this hub in Belgium. So, when you go to Belgium, it's like, oh, I get to play, I get to see this yummy person, and I get to, share everything that I'm being, etc. So how did you just go whoop and skip into marriage? What made that choice?
Actually, that was funny because so I'm having Indian background and he's African, so the
Mhm.
combination is very different and not necessarily culturally acceptable. I would say in the Indian context, like African,
Don't you
what?
just love that, not being
Yeah,
culturally
I'm
acceptable?
so love it. And I remember my mom was like, "Oh, you're still with him," blah, blah, blah. And then I said to her, "Yeah, and don't start this marriage story." And then I told him I had told her, and he's like, "Really? Don't you think we should just get married because like it will create so much peace in our families?"
Because it would in his family too, being
Yeah,
African. So that's
somehow.
really important
Yeah,
to them too. Yeah.
exactly.
Someone told me that, um, well, this was in South Africa, like being black in South Africa, and I'm not sure if it's the rest of Africa, is the families pretty much don't even meet the girlfriend boyfriend until marriage is on the table. Like it's irrelevant. Like until it's starting to look serious is what somebody told me is how they grew up with their family.
Yeah, I think in this case in Burkina Faso, where my husband is from, And definitely his family, it's not, but it was more like we could just see that that could be a way for our families to find each other, to create some kind of it really
Right.
was really energetically that I was like, oh yeah, that would create this space and this relaxation in everybody's world. And when he said it, there was so no significance. Like, he did never propose to me. He never, like, there's none of the drama or of the, of all that stuff. It was more like that sounded really pragmatic. And I was like,
Yeah.
huh. And all our friends thought I was either pregnant or like they didn't understand because neither of us ever wanted to get married. So it was more
Right.
like, what? You're getting married? You're pregnant? No, I'm not pregnant. We're actually just celebrating togetherness. And this was really the energy of like, hey, this just seems easier. And it was
Right.
super, super light and not, yeah, it was really light. So it was more like, hey, okay, that sounds like fun. Let's do that.
I love the way you said getting married to create relaxation within the families.
Yeah.
That's a really different way to look at it, and it's like I'm wondering if like what if everyone had that freedom, choosing that relationship's done different to not have marriage be something that they fight against or it becomes a necessity, but
Mm.
to look at it like you said in a really pragmatic way and go, okay, well, because getting married is not a choice that's just for you and him. It does include families. It does include a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So I like the way you looked at that, that it was, you knew it was going to create a different energy and create the relaxation with your families. It's like that's such an honoring of like going beyond just you and him. It's really cool.
Yeah, and the fun thing was also that we got married thrice. We did like we were like,
If
two
you're gonna
people,
do it, do it.
right? Like we were like, oh yeah, two people who don't want to get married do it three times in like three, like within like 10 days. But it was such a celebration. His mother came over for the first time to Europe. My parents went to Africa for the first time. So it opened up this truly discovery of people and countries and cultures, and it was truly like amazing celebration. So it really showed me how when you choose greater, that it can actually create for a lot of more people than just the two of you.
Did you have a traditional Indian wedding?
So yeah, I we did a Indian
They
wedding,
are
and this.
very full on. They're very intense.
So I have a friend, and he knows a lot about them. So we sat together and looked at all the things that are like, kind of like what, like he said, not cultural but more energetic, and then all
Yeah.
the blah blah. He's like, yeah, that's the social stuff. We took off what we didn't like, and we kept what we
Yeah.
liked. So it became just one full on day, but it was really fun, and we had friends from all over the world who came for that one. So it was incredible. It was really cool. It was such a
Nice.
such a cool. One of my friends said, I've never seen this mix of people in one space, because it was really people from Greece, from Portugal, from India, from America, from Africa. So it was beautiful. It was really, really beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, Kalpana, that's sort of, I mean, I've known you for a little while now, and that is such an indication of how you be in the world.
Mm.
So you started off your marriage from actually integrating everyone around the world to know that there's something different. So I just thank you for that. That's
Oh,
really cool.
thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was great. And it's funny how you then do fall into the trap of, oh, now we're married. What does that mean? Uh,
So where did you go from there? Now that you're
yeah.
married, what does that mean?
Well, actually, after that, we went to Australia for our
As one
honeymoon,
does.
as one does. He had a dance project because he's been working in a Aboriginal dance company for like 10 years by then. And he's like, I have to go to Australia. You love Australia. So we do our honeymoon there. So we went to our honeymoon there and then discovered Australia a bit. And it was funny to see how I thought I had to be different. And he kept showing me nothing changed. We just happened to have a really silly ring because we didn't care about it. And it was really interesting. And it's really been the story of our relationship ever since, how if any of us would go into some we're supposed to, that the other would be like, really? And that has
Mm.
been such a liberation.
Do you have some examples of something that you or he has chosen where you've gone down that road and then how you've supported each other in changing it?
Well, us, wow, I have to think. It's kind of, that part is long ago, but wow, I have to think it would.
So what did you think being a wife to him meant?
Yeah, so like thinking because it's this part is long ago, but it's really like things like, oh, do I now have to not do this and make time for you, for example? And it's like,
So
well,
pretty much the energy of starting to give up what
exactly,
you would like in the case
for
of
the
your
other.
partner,
Yeah.
which is something that is I see happens so often. I mean that I've done lots of interviews lately and about I don't know, my PR agent did this pitch about like the ways that women destroy relationships by trying to control their man, and I'm like, and it's the smallest of things, like when you like there's so many men out there who maybe love either playing sport or watching sport or doing something like that. And it's like letting like not letting them because they shouldn't be asking for permission.
Yeah, giving
But
the
I guess
space.
not, yeah, not complaining that
Yeah.
they want to go out surfing or that they want to go to softball or football or do anything. It's like, to me, it's like if you're going to create a great relationship, which we call it creationship, is
Yeah.
you being able to do what it is that you desire and they can do what it is that they desire, and you really support each other's creations. As you know, I think we were going to call this being apart together and supporting each other's creations. So let's talk about that and how
Yeah,
you've been that for each other over the years.
absolutely. I mean, I would say that that the beginning of like this marriage thing, and where we already had this, each person is creating their own stuff and being there for each other and talking about it, or like sharing stuff, was always in our world. And then what, like I said, like this thing of like, oh, maybe somebody should, and it was always like, well, no, that doesn't, that's not who we are. So we kind of that left quite quickly. That's why I had to really search also for an example, and really seeing that there's no role model, there's nobody to follow, we make up our own rules. And so the supporting each other has in that way always been, because he had his own dance company, I had my own dance activities, I started to do Access, and there's always been this energy of, I would still be doing this with or without you, but I'd love to have you in my life.
Yeah, that's such a different energy. And I just want to go back to this piece about you're saying anytime that you went, you know, I should, because I get that it's like that sort of thing just like sort of creeps in. Like, you know, when you're in a relationship or you get married or you start living with someone, it's the same
Yeah.
thing. You go to, oh, I should. So I'm wondering, do you have any tools or questions that people can go to when they start hearing it either come out of their mouth or just even wait, you know, in their
Thinking
head?
it.
It's like, oh, I should. And it's like, well, what's another way to look at this without going into, because it's such a fine line. It's like without going into this, I've got my own life and
Yeah.
this, you know,
It
like
was just,
fighting for you. It's like, we don't
yeah.
have to fight for you. So what are some, do you have any tools or questions or anything that you could offer
What's
people?
actually like, what if I don't have, what if I should nothing, and what do I want to choose here? I know one
Yeah.
stupid, really stupid example in the beginning was like, I'd be like, you didn't call me. And he'd be like, oh, but honey, you should have called me then if you wanted to talk to me. And then I was
Oh,
like,
I love him.
oh,
That's so,
but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like, it's true. And I was like,
yeah,
oh yeah, okay. Or even like, I wanted to have sex last night, but you fell asleep. Oh fuck, you should have woken me up and seduced me. Like, like
yeah,
really
yeah,
simple and pragmatic,
yeah.
and just like, what do you mean? What's the problem? And this is really like, he's such a no form, no structure, no significance guy. He taught me what that meant, because that's one of the tools of Access. Um, and we were getting married, and just a few weeks before was my birthday. I'm going to just tell this short story.
Yeah,
And
go for it.
I was like, okay, he's going to give me a present. And there was no present in the morning. And I was like, okay. So at night, he's like, let's go
Must
for
be a
dinner.
big present.
Right. And so we were at night having dinner, and I was a bit like, honey, I feel really stupid, but I didn't give me a present. And he's like, oh, present? Oh, yeah. But we're getting married. And for him, it was just like, isn't that like the greatest? For him, it was just like, we're getting married. You still like wanted like a thing to prove something? Like for him, it was just like
Right,
so. And I remember sitting there going, yeah. And the funniest thing is, ever since, he gets me great presents for my birthday.
right.
but, but he just showed me that there was this expectation that was like kind of like didn't like mean anything more than just an expectation. So it's been fun, like showing each other like a
Do you know,
mirror.
I think you've got to like Okay, because the freedom that you're talking about in this relationship is really beautiful and amazing. And I invite everyone to explore this. And a couple of things too. With that, I should. One of the questions I would add too is like ask the question of what am I trying to prove
Mm,
with this should? Because a
yeah.
lot of the times you're trying to prove something with, oh, I should do this. I'm proving that I love him. I prove that blah blah blah. I prove I'm a good wife. I prove, but all this sort of thing with the should. And also like acknowledge like you wanted this birthday gift, right? And it's like, I'm sorry, it's like it is actually really nice receiving a gift. And I remember the first, because I was in a relationship with Brendan Watt for 8 years, the first gift that he ever gave me was a barbecue. I remember going, you've just given me a
Okay.
barbecue. And he was like,
Interesting.
he was so excited because he went, well, you need one. He goes, you know what? We can cook outside and we can do all of this. And we cracked up laughing so much. And a mutual friend of mine, Chris Hughes, who
Yeah.
just went, mate, you can't give your girlfriend a
This is
barbecue. So from that moment on, and we were together for 8 years, he never gave me anything that was pragmatic again. It was
yeah.
always like something that was like elegant, beautiful, something that was, different. And we muck around saying the last gift that he ever gave me when we were together was a milk frother. And
Wow.
I went, that should have been a sign, shouldn't it? That he
Exactly.
gave me a milk frother. It's like the relationship is done.
Bye with the
So
elegant gifts.
yeah. There's no jewelry, there's no, yeah,
Yeah.
etc. But it's like even not acknowledging, like I think a great relationship too is even that acknowledgement of, because I remember I said to Brendan once, you know what, I actually do like being treated like a princess on my birthday. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, because then he knew I was going, can you treat me like a princess on my birthday? And then he knew, okay, I can do that. But it
Yeah.
wasn't from this expectation. It was sort of like this request that always created something greater. Because Brennan never cared about birthdays. It was just like,
Yeah.
I mean, his is on the 22nd of December. So it's, he's one of those
Yeah.
people who people go, here you go, here's Christmas and birthday at the
Oh
same
gosh.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's quite happy with it being forgotten. But I was like, no, I like celebrating my birthday with people who enjoy me.
Yeah.
So I really want to reiterate here, it's not about being this cool, tough person and not
No.
desiring something like that. But if you know that that works for you, then ask for it. Don't be afraid to ask for what actually works for you.
Yeah, and the fact that I said that to him, like I said, ever since he really has been enjoying finding presents to surprise me with. And every year
Yeah.
he's seeing how cool it is for him to give me something. So me bringing it up showed him what I desire, and there was no judgment in anybody's world about it. It was not me going, "You didn't give me a present." It was more like, "Baby, I was kind of expecting something. It's a bit strange." And like this vulnerable space is something that I can see allows us to also have these kind of conversations, because it's not coming from you're an idiot, or you messed up, or I'm stupid, but it's just like, hey, this.
Yeah, it's not making anybody wrong. And you know
Exactly.
what? A good relationship is not about making someone wrong, not
Yeah.
about changing someone, not about fixing them. It's about actually, being grateful for who they be in every moment of
Yeah.
of their life, like not desiring to change them.
Yeah.
So how because you spend quite a bit of time apart, don't you? Especially
Yeah.
during I think March 2020, I think
Yes,
you
that was my longest. It was like nearly 4 months. So that
yeah.
was, and that was not supposed to, because it was one of those moments that I was facilitating a class, and it was just like everything started to close. He had had a lot of shows getting canceled, like every day there was something canceled. And he called me and he's like, "Hey, baby, I'm just curious, everything's getting canceled." He started building a theater in his city, because there's no theater. And he was like, "Yeah, they're sending me photos and calling me all the time. And there's so much work there. I'm just wondering, is it crazy for me to go there, or should I stay at home?" And it was really that moment, like everybody was running home to be safe. And he was like, "Let me just go build my theater because I have time now." And I was in the lunch of my break, and I was like, "I'd love to." In our idea, COVID was for 2 weeks, right? So I was like, "I'd love to like watch Netflix with you for 2 weeks and like clear up the apartment because it's been so long. But I think you should go and like do this because that's much greater." Like it was simply like really that. And
Yeah.
and then he's like, "Yeah." And then he hung up, and then apparently he went and bought his ticket, and he wrote me. He said, "Oh my God, that conversation and that choice changed my world. I'm so excited and so relaxed at the same time. I'm making a crazy choice." But that was an example of, this is going to create more, and it's not about me wanting to watch Netflix. That is like, I can get over it. And so that was interesting, because when he left, we thought he'd be back in like 3-4 weeks. He had a ticket for a month, and then the airports closed where he was going, so he couldn't fly back. And it was super interesting to keep this conversation going and whatever was up, and also enjoy being alone. I love being alone. I remember him calling me, and it was like a week into the lockdown, and he's like, "Oh my God, you sound so happy and free." And I was like, "But I am."
Yeah.
Literally, I was like, "But I am. I'm super happy and I'm free." And he's like, "Oh God, yeah, I forgot," kind of a thing. It was so hilarious, but it was challenging, and it's not always fun and games. Sometimes it's like, "Gosh, can you just come out of that computer and hug me now?" Or, "I just want to wake up next to you," or, etc. But
Yeah.
even then, it's
I
just,
like the etc.
right, the
I
etc.
think we all know what the etc. is. That's
I
what we
hope
call
I
it
hope you
now.
know.
Yeah. Do you want to etc. with me?
Exactly, exactly. Uh,
Yeah.
but the knowing that the other person is actually creating something that makes him happy, and that you can be part of that, has just all, like, for each other, been just such a catalyst or fertilizer, even for our relationship.
Yeah, I think I'm just really grateful for what you're creating in the world, and because I get that the more people who are, I mean, one of the things I talk about a lot is the five elements of intimacy,
Yeah,
especially in relationship done different, which the five elements of intimacy is gratitude, trust, honor, allowance, and vulnerability. And when you can have those five elements of intimacy with you, then you can have it with somebody else. And it's like the fact that you guys choose to, not always come home to the same house every day, and also choose to be apart for extended periods of time, but not go into this panic or not go into this like, oh my God, this means something.
yeah,
Like knowing what you have, which also knowing what you have is also knowing when it's done.
yeah,
And that's the other thing. It's like I see people try and hold on to a relationship like, with like gripping onto it, which usually ends up destroying it rather than allowing that space
yeah.
to be there, to honor each other, to have that creative capacity with each other, and that empowering, hey honey, go do what it is that you need to do. I'm here. Like,
Yeah,
I'm here, I've got your back, but please go live your life, like whatever that is. And when you do interact and engage and do etc., it's a lot more fun
it
too,
is. Yeah, exactly. It's a lot more fun. And it's also this, we were just having a conversation about it not so long ago, that because it's like we were saying, like, we have to really, in some way, be good with ourselves, so that we're not going into all kinds of stories about, like, what is he doing and da 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 da. But there's this relaxation about ourselves and each other that we
Yeah.
have. Otherwise, you didn't pick up the phone, you didn't where were you, blah blah blah, all this kind of crap, right? Doesn't work. And
Yeah.
we were both saying that it's also that if something's up, we know we'll just be like, "Hey, something's up," and knowing that.
Have you read the book Mutant Message Down Under?
It's I just got it, actually.
Okay, so it's a great book, Mutant Message Down Under. It's also on Audible. Not in Australia though, but it's crazy because it's written about this American woman and her journey with Aborigines, etc. But one of the stories in there, which I thought was great, is because the Aboriginal language isn't this extensive language, like it doesn't have as many words as the English language, and also the way, like, there's this moment where she said, "Oh, we're all walking along in silence," right? And then
Mm.
after a while, she realizes, "Oh, they're not walking in silence. They're just not using words, but they're still like able to communicate with each other, and not even in the near vicinity. Like I mean, Aboriginals have always communicated with each other at a distance, right? So it's like, using that the capacity you have." And she said the Aborigines always found it really interesting that you had to go to this box, pick up a phone, put
Uh-huh.
money into it to call someone to see what was going on. They were like, why don't you just know? And
Wow.
it's like, and that's the thing that you're talking about too. It's like, we make technology and everything, well, how many times did you call me? How long did we spend on the phone? Like all this
Mm.
crazy sort of, thoughts, feelings, and emotions that we let override what's actually truly, what are we truly aware of? And,
Yeah.
what if relationships done different was this place where we function from our awareness, and you know when something's weird, when
Yeah.
something's off,
Off.
when
Yeah.
something's funky. Yeah. And then, I mean, yes, okay, you can make a call and just go, hey, is everything okay? Like,
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
whatever, but ask a question, but not assume. And I think
Exactly.
that's the difference too of being apart and still supporting each other. Like that 5 elements of intimacy again: trust, vulnerability, honor, gratitude, and allowance. Having that with you, and then you can have that with somebody else too.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
almost at the end of the show. I could talk to you forever, Kalpana.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you want to add here?
Well, I was going to say something, but it just left my world. But one of the things also is just that when you know that the other person is happy, how happy do you get? When you're not
Yeah.
excluding each other, because we keep checking, like, are we being too understanding of each other and not asking for what we require? And just, and really, like, we had that conversation just now, because now I left last week and we're only going to see each other end of August and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, hey, like really checking and being present with, like, does this really work for both of us? Or is this, oh yeah, okay, cool. And just really being super present and honest about it. And that's just really for us what makes it easier in a way. And you're not asking for permission, you're literally giving space. Yeah.
I love that. It's like still being in question, not assuming that what worked last week, last month, last year is still working. Is there something that we'd like to change here?
Yeah.
I love that. That is totally working together.
Yeah.
And like you said, not asking for permission, not making yourself less than or them less than, not making anyone right or wrong. It's being in question and having choices and possibilities show up, and that contribution that you can be with each other. So I think it's wonderful. How does it get any better than this? I adore you.
Yes. Get,
Where can people? Yeah, go for it.
no, yeah, the thing that I realized, remember, that I'm going to quickly add, at the quite beginning of Access, when I started to do Access classes more than him, he would say, hey baby, I cannot find you. And that is when I would know that I had changed so much that I hadn't included him.
Ah,
And
yes.
that one was like, for me, like, oh wow. So if he'd be like, hey, I cannot find you, or I'd be like, hey, he'd be like, oh, okay. And we knew we'd had to expand and include each other more. Just wanted to
Yeah.
give that tool, because that's been an amazing tool with us changing, also just like including the other.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great tool actually. And I've used that tool a lot when I used to travel with my
Mm,
dog and my stepson,
mm,
because they were the two, I guess, beings or whatever you want to call it in my life that I could feel them just going, where'd she go?
yeah.
So it was like, okay, I'm here, and give them that energy, show them the energy of I'm here. And even though I'm changing, I will not change. I won't not change for you, but I'm here. Don't worry, I'm still here. Whereas with Brendan, it was sort of more like because we were both using access consciousness tools as well, it was sort of like change and then be like, hey, and you'd have this conversation and you'd be like, oh, and it's like this reach out sort of thing and going, oh, okay. And it's
Yeah.
sort of, you knew that. But with my stepson and my dog, I was always like, hey, I'm here showing them. Because otherwise, my dog would start to freak out too. Like,
Oh,
they left me,
yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
oh no, I've
Yeah.
just changed a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it is a
Cool.
really cool tool to use. Kalpana, where can people find you?
So my
Not like
name,
your house, not like your address. I mean
I
website,
won't be there
Instagram.
anyway, so useless. It's kalpanaraghuramen.com. So basically my full name. That's my website where you'll find everything. And it's the same for Facebook, just a dot between my two names, and for Instagram, an underscore between my two names.
And we will put your
My
details in the
name.
show notes as well. Yeah, we'll put your note because people went, "What the
What's the
hell?" Yeah.
name? How do you spell that?
And you can also find Kalpana on accessconsciousness.com as
Absolutely.
well.
Yes.
And I've got a relationship done different class coming up on the 12th of August, which is it's going to actually be live and live stream. If you're enjoying this podcast and have a question or topic you'd like me to address, please leave a review wherever you are listening. The best way for me to know what it is you want to hear about is to send in your questions, and we actually read all the reviews that come in. So let us know which episodes you loved and what you want to hear about next, right there in the podcast reviews. And thank you. Truly, truly grateful.